The matchmaker's words echoed in Mei Lin's mind as she sat on the train heading toward Yunnan province, her entire life packed into 2 worn suitcases. He's a good man, hardworking, honest, but very simple, a farmer in a small village. Don't expect luxury at 28. Mei Lin had resigned herself to the reality that love matches were for the wealthy and the beautiful, and she was neither. She had worked in a textile factory in Guangzhou for 10 years, sending money home to her aging parents, watching her younger siblings marry while she remained alone. When her mother had arranged this meeting through a distant cousin, Mei Lin had agreed without hesitation. A simple farmer wanted a wife, and she wanted a home, a family, perhaps even a small garden where she could grow jasmine like her grandmother once did. It seemed like a fair exchange, a practical arrangement between 2 people who had learned not to dream too big. The village of Baihua was even smaller than she had imagined, nestled in a valley between terraced hills that looked like giant green staircases climbing toward heaven. Zhang Wei met her at the bus stop, a tall man with sun-darkened skin and calloused hands, wearing plain clothes that had been mended multiple times. He was shy, barely meeting her eyes as he loaded her suitcases onto the back of an old motorcycle. They rode in silence through narrow roads, past rice paddies where elderly farmers bent over their crops, past simple houses with laundry hanging in the yards. But wait, because what Mei Lin was about to discover would challenge everything she thought she knew about wealth, worth, and what it truly means to be rich in this world. Zhang Wei's farmhouse looked modest from the outside, a traditional structure with gray tiles and red wooden doors, chickens pecking in the yard, a vegetable patch stretching along one side. Mei Lin felt her heart sink slightly, not from disappointment but from the weight of reality settling in. This was her life now. She would wake before dawn to help with the farm work, cook simple meals, perhaps have children who would also grow up knowing the hardness of rural life. Zhang Wei showed her to a small room where she could rest, apologizing for its simplicity, and then excused himself to finish the day's work. Mei Lin unpacked her few belongings, hung her 2 good dresses in the wardrobe, and sat on the bed, allowing herself one moment of uncertainty before she pushed it away. She had made her choice, she would honor it. Dinner that evening was quiet, just the 2 of them eating rice and vegetables at a simple wooden table. Zhang Wei asked about her journey, about her family, speaking carefully as though worried his country accent might offend her city ears. Mei Lin found herself warming to his gentleness, the way he served her first, the way he apologized for not having fancier food to offer. After dinner, he mentioned almost casually that he needed to check on something and asked if she would like to come along. She agreed, expecting to see the chicken coop or perhaps a small barn. Instead, Zhang Wei led her down a path behind the house, through a grove of trees, and into a valley she hadn't noticed before. What Mei Lin saw took her breath away. Stretching before her were acres upon acres of tea plants, their neat rows covering the hillsides like a living carpet of green. But these weren't ordinary tea plants. Even with her limited knowledge, Mei Lin could see they were ancient. Their twisted trunks thick and gnarled, their leaves a particular shade that seemed to glow in the fading sunlight. Zhang Wei watched her reaction carefully before speaking. "These are pu'er tea trees," he said quietly. "Some of them are over 300 years old. My family has been the steward of this land for 9 generations. We don't own much, but we own this." Mei Lin's mind raced. She had worked in the city long enough to know that ancient pu'er tea was worth more than gold, that collectors and tea houses paid fortunes for leaves from trees like these. Zhang Wei walked her through the groves, explaining how his family had protected these trees through wars, through famines, through the Cultural Revolution when many ancient tea gardens were destroyed. He showed her the processing facility hidden in a cave, temperature controlled naturally by the earth itself, where tea aged in conditions that couldn't be replicated anywhere else in the world. He spoke of his education at the Agricultural University in Kunming, his master's degree in traditional tea cultivation, the international buyers who came to his door offering prices that made her head spin. "I could have moved to the city," he said, his voice carrying a hint of sadness. "I could have sold the land to developers, become wealthy in the way people understand wealth. But this land, these trees, they're not just assets, they're a trust passed down through my ancestors. My duty is to protect them, to pass them on to the next generation even better than I received them." As the sun set over the tea gardens, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Zhang Wei turned to Mei Lin with an expression of vulnerability that surprised her. "The matchmaker told you I was a simple farmer because I asked her to. I've met women before who were interested in what I owned, not who I was. I needed to know that whoever agreed to come here, agreed to come for the right reasons. I needed someone who would see value in a simple life, who wouldn't need luxury to be happy, who might eventually come to love this land the way I do." Mei Lin felt tears prick her eyes, not from anger at the deception, but from understanding. She thought of her small room in the factory dormitories, the years of loneliness, the simple hope she had carried on the train that maybe, just maybe, she could build something meaningful with an honest man. The weeks that followed brought revelation after revelation. The simple farmhouse had a library filled with rare books on agriculture and tea culture. The village that seemed so poor was actually prosperous, its residents the descendants of tea families who had chosen tradition over modernization. Zhang Wei's old motorcycle sat in a garage next to a luxury car he rarely drove, preferring the motorcycle because it was practical for the mountain roads. But more than the material discoveries, Mei Lin discovered Zhang Wei himself, a man who could discuss philosophy and poetry, who played the guzheng beautifully, who treated the elderly villagers with profound respect and the land with reverence that bordered on spiritual. Mei Lin learned the art of tea from Zhang Wei, spending long afternoons in the gardens as he taught her to identify quality by touch, by scent, by the way leaves unfurled in hot water. She learned that wealth wasn't measured in bank accounts but in knowledge passed down through generations, in land that grew more valuable not because of market speculation but because of careful stewardship. She learned that her husband, this simple farmer, was consulted by tea experts worldwide, that his opinions on cultivation techniques were published in academic journals, that he had quietly donated millions to preserve traditional tea culture across China. 6 months after her arrival, Mei Lin stood in the tea gardens at dawn, watching Zhang Wei move between the ancient trees with the practiced grace of someone who knew every plant individually. She thought about the woman she had been on that train, willing to settle for a simple life with a simple man, expecting nothing more than basic companionship. She thought about the matchmaker's description, technically accurate but profoundly incomplete. Zhang Wei was a farmer, but calling him just a farmer was like calling the ocean just water. And yes, their life was simple in many ways. No parties or fancy restaurants, early mornings and hard work, hands dirty from soil and stained from tea leaves. But it was also rich beyond anything Mei Lin had imagined, rich in purpose, in tradition, in the quiet satisfaction of work that mattered. When Zhang Wei noticed her watching and smiled, that shy smile she had come to love, Mei Lin realized something profound. She hadn't married a poor farmer who turned out to be wealthy. She had married a wealthy man who had the wisdom to live like a farmer, who understood that true richness came not from what you consumed but from what you protected, not from what you took from the world but from what you gave back to it. Their children, when they came, would inherit not just valuable land but something more precious, the knowledge of what it meant to be stewards rather than owners, to measure worth in centuries rather than quarters, to find wealth in the morning mist rising over ancient tea plants. As Mei Lin walked down to join her husband among the trees, she silently thanked her younger self for being brave enough to board that train, for being willing to accept a simple life, because that willingness had opened the door to a life that was anything but simple. She had thought she was making a sacrifice, trading her dreams for security. Instead, she had found something she hadn't even known to dream of, a partnership built on shared values, a purpose that transcended personal ambition, and a love that grew slowly, like the ancient trees around them, rooted deep and built to last for generations. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever discovered that what you thought was ordinary was actually extraordinary, share it with someone who needs reminding that real wealth isn't always visible at first glance. And remember, in a world that constantly tells us to want more, to reach for bigger and flashier and newer, sometimes the greatest treasure is found in choosing depth over display, in valuing what endures over what impresses, in recognizing that the richest life might just be the one that looks simplest from the outside.